Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a review on the Civivi Bullmastiff. Now look, this is a large and a little bit cartoonish knife, but it's also very cool. And I also have to say, this has been around for a little while. It is a 2020 design, but it's had enough time that there are actually some variations out there. So there's a small, and there's also another, it's actually got another name. It's the Mastodon, I believe. Yeah, the Mastodon sounds right. So we've got the Bullmastiff and the Mastodon, and I believe both are available in a large and a small. This one to me makes the most sense. One, just given the design and the name, this doesn't make sense as a small knife at all. But also, when you move over to the Mastodon, you lose this fuller here, which takes away one of the funnest features of the knife, and that is it's flickable. And so for me, the large Bull Mastiff is the one that is by far the most appealing and most interesting, and the one that I'm cared to pay any attention to and wanted to share with you guys. All right, so first of all, this is a big knife, no question about it. 9 inches overall, big dramatic blade here. 3 7/8 on that blade, 5 1/4 inches on the handle. That's the actual closed length. All right. Tons and tons of grip area here, 3 3/4 inches just down here, and then you still have that choil up front, so lots and lots of room for even the biggest of hands. Now the cutting edge for a knife of this size is a little shorter because of that choil. It's only 3 5/8, which is still plenty, and the weight on this is 5.5 ounces. In terms of how it carries, it's actually not super crazy thick. It's going to take up all of the space in your pocket, but your front right pocket is only for your knife anyway. It does have those nice flush screws. So in terms of how this feels when carrying it, it's pretty stinking good. I have no complaints whatsoever. Now, I know there are some of you out there who, you've got a magic number. It can't be over 4 ounces. It can't be over 1 ounce per inch or whatever the case may be. The fact is 5 ounces is not that big of a deal, 5.5 ounces. So I have no problem with carrying this, in jeans or 511s or whatever I carry it in. It's perfectly fine. Moving on to the blade, and really the blade is the story here, right? This knife is all about this massive chunk of 9CR18 MOV steel. It's big, it's flashy, it's dramatic. It's a giant cleaver style knife. Now, I should say that no folder is ever going to be designed to work as a true cleaver. It kind of needs to be a fixed blade in order to function as a cleaver in a butcher shop would traditionally function. But from a design standpoint, it's still kind of cool. All right, we've got this big exaggerated point here. We got this fuller making it look very aggressive. Like this feels like something out of Gangs of New York or something like that. And so that's why people are going to want this. The stock is a very hefty 157,000, so that's more than 1/8 of an inch. It's also, though, a very impressive 16 thousandths behind the edge. And so when you go down to 16 thousandths at the edge and you have this much space for your flat grind to slowly increase, this thing slices like a demon. It really, really cuts well. And so while this blade may look like it's the least practical thing that ever has been conceived of, it actually, if you're working with this in the kitchen, if you're doing EDC cutting tasks, cutting a piece of rope or a package open or some cardboard up, it slices like crazy. So yes, it looks insane, and no, I don't think that people are buying this to be a super practical cutting tool, but it actually does work. Okay, so you can buy this and you can have something big and insane and flashy in your pocket, but you can also cut. It's no slouch at all, and you're not sacrificing even in the least. The other thing I will say is a practical advantage of this very thick wide blade in the fuller is that you can grip this right up here and use it this way. And I have done that a lot for, coring out potatoes or for opening clamshell packages or anything where you want to get right up there and control the tip of the blade. And that tip is quite fine. And so, yeah, you probably don't want to drop this. You could break that tip off. But even then, this is not a blade you're going to stab anyone with. All right. It's like a freight train hitting them. Perhaps you could use it as a blunt force instrument, but again, you don't want to be putting negative pressure on there. And that's, I'm being a little facetious here, but really cool, really big, really dramatic blade. It's out there, and I've got to tell you, this is a knife I've gotten a lot of comments on. If you open this up and start cutting stuff, and there's anyone around at all, they're like, "Whoa, what have you got?" And because of the shape of the blade and sort of the cartoonish nature of it, I found, people's reaction was not negative. They weren't scared of it. They weren't freaking out. They were just like, "Man, that is something else." And often people would want to take a look at it. They might want to cut something themselves with it. People really were drawn to this knife, and I get that. This is a very compelling and very interesting design. So yeah, big, noticeable, but highly functional blade, so long as your primary goal is not to stab anything. Okay, it's not great for that, but outside of that, for regular EDC cutting stuff, it's really, really good. All right, as we move down to the action, there's not much to say, guys. This is a Civivi with a liner lock on bearings and a flipper, right? They all work. Okay, I've never had a bad one, and guess what? They didn't start with this one. So the action is nice. The detent is pretty good. In fact, the detent is dialed in quite well so that you can actually spidey flick this. It doesn't spidey flick perfectly, and you sort of got to pay a little bit of attention to what you're doing, but it does work. Of course, it drops shut because you have that massive piece of steel there. So the action on this is quite enjoyable. And in fact, because of that large blade, when you flick this out hard, you can feel it push back in your hand. Like there's actually a recoil to it. So pretty enjoyable action. Liner lock is quite accessible. So not a whole lot to say about this point other than I do enjoy the flickability. Moving on to the handle, again, not much to say. The shape of this handle is pretty standard. It's grippy G10 with stainless steel liners. It feels good in hand. There's no hot spot created by the clip. Construction is just a liner lock that we're used to seeing. It is pretty heavily milled out. G10 backspacer. Again, I'll notice that nice deep carry clip with flush fitting screws, and it is reversible to left side if you want to change pockets. All right. So nothing to complain about there. It feels good in hand. And again, 2 points that I will make where this stands out is, one, I do like the choil, and number two, I like that ability with this big thick blade that you can get up here and do some little fine stuff. And this is great if you're taking out a splinter or opening clamshell packaging or something like that. So I guess you could argue that there is some small practical purpose. You can do that with other knives as well, and I'll demonstrate that with a comparison. I can hold this knife and get out here just to the tip, but this just gives me a little more real estate for my fingers to sort of maneuver there. All right, so yeah, I like the handle, I like the action, I really like the blade. Let's go ahead and get some comparisons, although there's not much out there. So let me say this. In terms of comparisons, I'm going to show you some more standard knives that maybe aren't as flashy and crazy. So if you want something big, but perhaps a little more practical, the steel wheel Bargheist is a good option. You're going to cost a little bit more money, but again, big, beefy knife, all the same, heavier than this for sure. But if you want that big, tactical type of option, the Bargheist is a great one. Very hand filling, very large, and around the same price. I think the Bargheist is going to cost you a little bit more than this guy. This guy I think is actually pretty affordable, around between $50 and $60 anyway. This guy is I think between 60 and 70. What else have we got? So the Real Steel Akuma would be another large knife, not as big, but bearings, great action, slightly different as well, but a little more practical, a little more carryable. Obviously a Rat Model 1 would compare pretty well to this. It's not going to be as big, it's not going to be as flashy, but as I said, we're trying to come up with some maybe less over the top options for you. Another good one would be the Kaiser Justice. Really nice knife, good action, slightly better steel on this, and I think these are on sale right now. You could be watching this, I don't know, 5 years later, so they're probably not on sale anymore. But again, decent comparative option, certainly more practical, and this is going to be a knife that's probably more attractive to a larger group. Lastly, let's pull in a couple of big cold steels here. So we've got the Recon 1, which is, always a standard for the channel and one of my favorite knives in existence. And of course, what knife review and comparison of a large knife would be complete without the Formax? So there's the cold steel Formax. If you really want something even bigger, even beefier, even crazier that will stand out and truly be something special, the Formax from Cold Steel is fantastic. And, probably the single biggest, baddest, hardest use knife available on the market. All right. So you've seen some comparisons, you've seen all the features, we've talked about what I like. There's not much to dislike here other than, of course, if you don't like this design, then why are you even watching this video? But yeah, if you like this design, obviously buy it. It's a Civivi. Again, you're hard pressed. Off the top of my head, I cannot come up with a Civivi that I would say, if you like the design, you still shouldn't buy it because it's got some big issue with it. They just do a really, really good job, and this is no exception. So yeah, if this is a design that speaks to you, definitely go out and get one. You should be able to get one over at White Mountain Knives. As soon as I say that, I'm sure they all sell out, or maybe Justin just takes them off the website as soon as he hears me say it in a review. But go over there. You can save yourself 10% using my discount code SHARPSTUFF. If they don't have any, go ahead and check out Southern Edge Knife Works. They do carry some Civivis. I don't remember seeing this on the site, but send them an email, let them know you want it, and maybe they'll get one for you. Then you can use the 15% off discount code over there as well. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll talk to you soon.